What's up, y'all? My name is Anastacia Beaverhousen, and I am here on behalf of Catalyst and Stonewall in order to help you celebrate your Chico pride by giving you a drag makeup tutorial. I'm gonna walk you through the steps I took to create this glamorous look and also give you some tips that you can use for any drag makeup application. So grab some water, get your makeup tools, and let's get started. Alright, so the first step is to make sure that your face is clean and ready to go. I recommend doing a light face wash and a moisturizer before you start. Once your face is all prepped and ready to go, we're going to start blocking out our brows. That usually takes the longest step. I like to use the Elmer's washable glue. Most important is just make sure whatever glue you're using is non-toxic and washable. And the first thing you're going to do is I like to start in the inner corner of my brow, and I just start doing little circles and building up that glue. And this process is gonna take quite some time. We're gonna basically be repeating the same steps over and over again until we are happy with how much glue we have laid down. Doing nice little circles so you can coat those hairs as evenly as possible, that we get all of them in there. And then next you're gonna wanna take either an eyebrow brush or any kind of spoolie. So that's what this guy looks like right here. And we're gonna brush our brow hairs just to make sure that the glue is evenly coated. And you're actually gonna first brush them in the opposite direction of where you wanna lay them down. And we're gonna go in with another layer of glue just so that way, like I said, we've got as much glue on there, because this is probably the most key step to making sure that you have a nice big area to do your eyes. A lot of drag looks are mainly developed in the eye area. Now we're gonna brush them the direction that we want them to lay down. I usually like my brow hairs to lay down up and in the direction that they are naturally growing. So for me, I brush my left side up nice and high, but just a little bit to the left so that way they lay kind of naturally flat. We want our brows to be as flat as they can. And then now we're gonna do another layer of glue on each side. Little circles. I recommend getting a very large glue stick. It just makes the process go a lot faster. We'll brush the brows again to make sure that they're going in the direction we want them to. And then before we put our next layer of glue on, we actually want to let that dry. To speed things up a little bit, I'm going to use a hairdryer. If you do use a hairdryer to dry your brows, make sure you keep it on a low setting, both for the heat, just to make sure you don't burn yourself, and take it very gradually. So I'm just going to check to see how dry that is. And it's still a little tacky, which is good. We don't want it fully dried because we are gonna do another layer of glue on there. Want to make sure whatever glue stick, doesn't necessarily have to be Elmer's, but Elmer's is definitely safe for their skin. It's what most drag queens use. I know some queens tend to use prosthetic glue, which also works pretty well, but that's a little bit harder to take off, and it dries a lot faster. So if you are newer to doing to blocking out your brows, I would recommend starting with a glue stick the first couple of times until you get really comfortable and really good at it. I'll brush up the brow hairs. And this is actually a really good sign when it's hard to comb through your brows, because that means that the glue is doing its job. So next we're gonna set it with some powder. You can use any old translucent powder. I'm using the Maybelline Fit Me powder. in shade 05 Fair. And then so we're just dipping our sponge in, loading it up with some powder, and pressing that powder right on top of the glue and where we glued our brows down at. Feel free to use a generous amount of powder because we will brush off any excess that doesn't stick down. So next I'm just going to use a makeup wipe to clean up the excess powder and glue around my brows, just so that way we have a nice even texture around the skin. Because if you leave excess glue there to dry, it can leave kind of a textured pattern, making it uneven, so your shadows and your foundation won't lay down as evenly. And if there's a little bit of purple, if that's okay, your foundation's gonna cover all that up, same with your concealer. If you do have really dark brow hair, I would recommend using a color corrector of some kind, either a peach or red tone. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and for today I'm gonna go in with my color corrector. This one is from LA Girl. And it comes with a brush applicator that I really like, so I'm using the actual applicator. You can totally use your own brush. You can go pretty heavy on your brows with the color corrector. For most color correctors, you usually want to go just kind of light on your other areas of your face, but with your brows, since they're hairs and they're probably going to be a lot darker than any other spot on your face, you can go pretty heavy with the color corrector. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and blend out that color corrector that we put up there, just using our sponge. Alright, so next I'm going to go ahead and put just a little bit of concealer down over our brows, and then we're going to cover all the brows and the foundation. All the brows in the face with foundation. I'm going in with my Estee Lauder Double Wear Concealer. I like this one because it's a radiant concealer, so it has just a little bit of hydration in there since I have a little bit of dry skin. You can go pretty heavy with your concealer. I'm gonna cover it up with foundation, so I'm not gonna go super duper heavy, but just enough to where I feel that the majority of it is covered. Yeah, and so the reason we're covering down our brows is because we're gonna create more space for our eyeshadow. So instead of our eyeshadow ending, like for me, since my brows normally like right here, my eyeshadow look would normally end here. Now I can redraw my brows as high as I want. I usually go right about in this area, kind of where my brows end normally, is where I start my brow, and then that way I have all that space to kind of create my look. Gives me a bigger canvas to work with. And again, taking our sponge and just blending it in. All right. And then there is a little bit of texture right here from the glue drying, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab our makeup wipe and try and clean that up just a little bit. We're gonna go ahead and go in with our primers. I feel that primers are really important in your makeup because they help to hold onto the makeup. Kind of add, like when you're painting, you don't just paint your house, you first prime the wall before you paint it. Same thing with your foundation. Before you do anything, you wanna make sure that you prime your skin. I'm actually gonna go in with a couple different primers. The first one I'm gonna go in with is from Lancome, the Aqua Gel Defense. I like this one because it's pretty hydrating and it also has sunscreen in it. And I pull my primers too all the way down my neck because I'm gonna do my foundation down my neck just so that way we have an even blend. And like I said, I'm using quite a few primers, so next I'm going to go in with the e.l.f. Putty Poreless Primer. Like this one because it smooths out all of our pores, helps with skin texture, and it also has squalene in it, so it's pretty hydrating. And I'm just massaging that in with my fingers, taking that all over. I especially want to cover my nose area with this guy. Putting it all over on my nose just because that's where my foundation tends to pull up or break up, so it doesn't like to stay so evenly as the rest of the face. So I put extra primer there to just kind of make sure everything stays in place and is held down perfectly. All right, so next, like I said, I'm gonna use a lot of primers today. I like when I do my drag looks, I like a very glowy appearance, so that kind of light reflecting, dewy, kind of freshly, that fresh morning glow is what I like to go for. So I use the Becca Backlight Primer. And again, just gonna take a little bit on my fingers and rub that all over. And again, this is all preference. When you're doing your look, you are more than welcome to use more mattifying products, which just means that they won't glow or reflect light as much. They'll kind of make a lot more of a flatter appearance. They won't reflect the light as much. Next, I'm going in with my Cover FX glitter drops. It's basically just a liquid, like highlighter, liquid glitter. It's a really nice color. And for this, actually, just because this is glitter and it's gonna get everywhere, I am gonna use a brush just to help spread it around nice. I'm gonna just apply the glitter drops straight to the brush and then go in all over. It's gonna look a little intense at first, but remember we are gonna put our foundation over it, so it won't look as glittery. It'll look more dewy and more just like our skin is radiant.
You ever seen Star Trek The Next Generation?
I've seen a couple episodes, I haven't watched it all the way through.
You kind of look like Data. He was
yes.
The android?
Yes.
With the,
yep.
Because his face is all gold.
Yeah. I love that.
I can't remember if he had eyebrows or if because like I think they put the makeup through his eyebrows, but he still had eyebrows.
So now we're finally ready for our foundation. I'm gonna take my Becca 24-Hour Full Coverage Foundation and go in all over. I like to take my foundation first with a big flat brush to just kind of evenly apply it all over, and then I'll go in with our beauty sponge at the end to kind of even out any streaks or patches that might have come from the brush. So I'm taking this all over. Like I said, I'm using the Becca one because it is humidity and sweat resistant, which when I'm in drag, I'm usually moving a lot, doing either performances, hosting, going places, so especially here in Chico, it can get very, very warm. I'm going, like I said, all over with my foundation, even on my eyelids, just to make sure everything is even. I like basically a blank canvas when I do my foundation. And while I shaved this morning, there is a little bit of a 5 o'clock shadow coming in underneath, so I'm gonna go ahead and take our pink color corrector again to go over that. And then I'll layer some more foundation on top of it. And the great thing about color correctors is if you blend them well enough, you can put them either on before your foundation or after. I like to always put at least a small layer of foundation on top of them, just in case I didn't blend them out perfectly. The foundation will usually help cover up any patches that I might have left behind. Also gonna take that same concealer and do up my under eyes real quick, kind of help add some brightness in there. In case you're like me and don't get nearly enough sleep, it'll help to counteract any dark circles that you have in that area. I'm gonna put just a little bit more foundation on my chin and jaw from where we did the color corrector earlier. Next, we're ready for our concealer. For my concealer, rather than using going back with the skin tone one that we used earlier, I'm gonna use a pure white concealer. I like the No Filter from ColourPop. It's a really good one. Morphe also makes one that is really nice. And these are both pretty inexpensive. If you like a higher end concealer, Urban Decay makes a really great white concealer as well. And I'm just going in pretty heavy, kind of where we put the color corrector before, just in the under eyes. I'm gonna make almost like a little triangle, just to swoop out here. I wanna try to give it as even as you can. We're gonna do our best, and once we blend it out with the sponge, it'll look a lot more even. I'm also gonna go down the center of my nose, right on the tip, and then take it up. I'm gonna go just on the outside of the brows towards the center of my forehead. I'm also going to highlight my chin and the top of the jaw. And like I said, since we are gonna blend this with our sponge, it doesn't need to be perfectly even. And we don't wanna go on the actual jawline because we are going to later contour that. And I'm going just on the Cupid's bow as well, just to add a little bit of extra highlight. And we're gonna go back in with our sponge and just blend everything out. I tend to take my concealer up onto my eyelid a little bit too. I don't actually apply the concealer there, but I just take the excess that's down here and blend it upwards, just so that way we don't have to bring it too low, because the eyelids are all going to get covered with shadow anyway, so if they have that white concealer on them, that'll help make it a little bit more vibrant when we put the color on top of it. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that, so we're gonna move on to our next step. I'm gonna take our Maybelline Fit Me powder again, and I'm gonna do what's called baking, which you're just going to press that loose powder into places that you wanna highlight, kind of like what we did with the brows after we glued them down. So we're gonna take our sponge, dip into a hefty amount of powder, and I'm gonna go right underneath eyes. Like I said, this is gonna help not only set the makeup there, it's gonna help brighten the area, and it'll help catch any fallen shadow. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take some of that powder, and I'm gonna bake down here as well, just above the jawline, right below the hollows of my cheek. So if you see when you kind of suck your cheeks in, we're gonna go just below that hollow. Basically anywhere that we've highlighted is kind of where you're gonna want to bake. All right, now we're gonna go in with our eyeshadow today. As I get powder everywhere. Alright, so like I said, we're gonna do kind of a bright, vibrant, fun eye look today. I'm going in with my James Charles Morphe palette. You can use any kind of rainbow palette. I'll kind of show you what it looks like on the inside. So I'm gonna take this yellow right here, and I'm gonna start on the inside of my eyes. Just to kind of give like a nice bright inner corner look. I like to do both eyes at the same time, switching back and forth when I'm doing color, just because I feel like it helps me get a more even shape. But you are welcome to do one eye first completely and then go back and do the other one. Alright, then I'm gonna take this orange cardinal shade, and we're gonna blend that in with the yellow. Blending outwards, we're gonna start to redefine where our crease is with this. Or first I'm gonna actually pack it in with this end of the brush, and then we will blend it out with the fluffy end. And then I'm just going right where that yellow ended. We're getting up just a little higher. It's gonna look a little rough and messy at first, and then at the end we'll clean it all up with some nice blending. So next I'm gonna go in with this shade Vacay, and we're gonna put pink right on the outside of the orange. And I'm gonna use kind of the same technique. I'm gonna pack it on and then blend it out. There we go. And I'm not worried too much about the lid right now, this space down in here. We will come back to that in just a little bit. For now, I just want to kind of get the eye shape up there. and get all the colors that we want to use on the eye. Should I just leave this on while I go to work tonight?
You want the big tips, don't you?
Right? In order to help make my eye stay even, if you get close enough to like a little compact mirror or something, you can kind of see just a little bit where the brow hairs are laid down, and I use that to kind of gauge on each side how high up to go. So, you know, if I'm just going just above the brow line on this side, I want to make sure I'm doing the same on that side to make it nice and even. Next, I'm gonna take this purple right here, and I'm gonna do what is called veiling. This part is completely optional, but this is something I like to do to add color to the rest of the face. So I'm basically gonna blend this purple on the outer edge with that pink, and then take it up and above. So I'm gonna just kind of start in the outer corner, and I want this to kind of be a little bit lighter, so I'm not gonna really pack it. I'm just gonna kind of start blending it out. Also gonna take it down a little bit, just towards the cheekbone. Okay, for now we're gonna take a break from the color, and we're gonna go in and do our draw on our new brows. I like to use a brow powder. I feel like it's the easiest to use. It's also the easiest to clean up if you make any mistakes. And then I'm just taking a little flat brush here. So I'm gonna just follow kind of where my brows naturally laid down. I can still kind of just barely see them if I get close enough to the mirror. So I'm gonna go ahead and start probably about a quarter way in from where my brows normally begin. And I'm just gonna do a slight little arch for them. And I'm just gonna bring it to where the tail almost blends in to where we have that purple. So next we're gonna cut our crease. I'm gonna take a flat concealer brush and some of that white concealer from earlier. I'm gonna use the Morphe one this time. And we're just gonna define what the shape of the lid is going to be. So this is here for those of you like me who have a more set increase. You can see my brow bone comes up over my eye a lot. My eyes are pretty set back in there. I can use the concealer to kind of redraw the shape of that, so that way it'll give me more real estate for my lid. So I'm just gonna start first by going on the innermost part of the eye and just kind of patting that concealer in there. Alright, so I went ahead and did the other eye as well. I got white concealer to cut out kind of the shape of the crease. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to blend it all back in together. So first things first, I'm going to take this light blue shade Macaw, and I'm going to kind of pack it over that light blue, where I put the white down, just so that way when I put my glitter on top, it's going to really show through. So I'm just packing that light blue shade anywhere basically that I put that white concealer down. And then in just a few minutes, we'll blend those edges all together, and then we'll put the glitter down. I'm gonna take a clean brush now and just kind of blend in all the edges together, just so they're not so harsh, so we have a nice transition. Remember, again, we don't want to overblend so that it all becomes one, but we do want a nice seamless transition. And now that I'm fairly happy with that, the next thing I'm going to do is take this bright glittery blue shade, and we're gonna pack that on everywhere that we have that light blue base. I'm gonna take a pretty firm packing brush like this guy right here. Alright, so now that we have our blue on both sides, I've cleaned it up a little bit so that everything blends together really nice. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on lashes. I'm going to use Tarte lashes in the style Glamazon. You can use any lashes that you like. I recommend using pretty bold, dramatic ones. So you're going to want to take your lash and you're going to put it on top of your eye, like on top of where your actual lashes are, just to kind of see the shape. Like I said, I don't have any glue on this lash. I'm just putting it on there to kind of see the shape of it, what it's gonna look like once I do glue it down. Almost every lash you're gonna have to trim a little bit to make sure it's the right shape for your eye. I pre-trimmed this one, so I don't have to do any more trimming. But then we're gonna layer our glue onto the band, let it dry a little bit till it gets tacky, and then place it on. So we're gonna take our lash glue. There's lots of different styles of lash glue. There's magnetic lashes, there's squeeze tubes, there's the kind with the brush. I prefer the kind with the brush, so we're gonna do that way. And all you're gonna do is just put a pretty hefty coat of glue on there. And we're gonna let it get tacky, so we're gonna let it dry for a few seconds before we actually place it on the lid. All right, that should be perfect now. Like I said, we're just gonna place it in, and I'm gonna start from the inside and go out. I'm gonna take my little lash tool. It's kind of similar to a pair of tweezers. I'm gonna just use it to squeeze my fake lash and my real lashes together. I'm just gonna hold it for a second, go as far in as you can. All right, so now that our lashes are on, I blended them in with my actual lashes using a mascara. You can use any old black mascara, will work just fine. Next I'm going to do is I'm gonna brush off my bake. So the powder that's underneath my eyes. I'm gonna go ahead and leave the one down here for now, just until we get to our contour. I'm gonna brush this off just so we can do some more colorful and more fun stuff underneath the eye as well. So we're just gonna take our brush. A nice fluffy brush will do just fine. The bigger, the fluffier, the better. So next we're gonna just do the lower lash line. I'm gonna match the colors that we did on top on the bottom, so we're gonna go ahead and start with the yellow first. Orange color, and just place it right next to it, blend those two together. Alright, and then now we're ready for the pink. Alright, and then finally, I'm gonna just take that purple again that we had on our temple, and we're gonna just bring it in to that lower lash line. Right, next I'm gonna do the other side, and then we'll go into our contour. Alright, now that our lower lash line is all blended into the outer sides in the top of the lash, we're gonna go ahead and start with our contour. So I'm going to take the Park Avenue Princess from Tarte. I'm going to take this deepest shade right here, and I'm going to contour the cheeks, my cheeks, my forehead, and then my jawline as well. I'm just going to take this little blender brush right here, dip it in pretty hefty, and then go to town. I'm going to start basically where my natural hairline ends right here and just go down. Remember, we're gonna follow that hollow of our cheek. So just above where we were doing our baking. I'm gonna go on the jawline, and I'm gonna bring it all the way up to just right below my ear. Go ahead and do the forehead real quick as well. Next, I'm going to take this tiny little angled brush right here, and I'm going to use this to contour the shape of my nose. I'm going to go one shade lighter. I'm going to do the angle right here and do the shape for my nose. And so how I'm going to do my nose contour is I'm going to sharpen up the point of my nose, and I'm going to have it go all the way up the side of my nose so that it meets with my brow bone. Alright, so next we're gonna go in with our blush. I'm gonna use a very corally bright blush color. I'm gonna take a pretty thick brush. I'm gonna dip that in there. And then I'm gonna start on the apple of my cheek, do like a little bit of a swirl, and then I'm gonna brush out. Next up is gonna be highlight. For this look, I'm gonna use the Becca Rose Quartz highlighter for you. Nice pink shimmery highlight to complement our very colorful eye look we have going on. So I'm just gonna take a fluffy brush, get a good amount of highlight on there, tap off any of the excess, and then I'm gonna go right onto my cheekbones. And just blend. And I am gonna be layering another highlight on top of this, just because, as I think I've said now 9 different times, I love shimmer. So we're gonna go very heavy with the shimmer. I'm also gonna take that down the bridge of my nose. And Cupid's bow. And above both of my brows. We're gonna layer our highlights, so I'm gonna take my Anastacia Glow palette, and I'm gonna take this middle shade right here. I'm gonna take this middle shade right here, Unicorn, and I'm gonna just blend that right on top of where we put the last highlight, just to add a little extra pop. And then I always like to take a clean brush and just kind of go over everything once more, just to make sure everything is as blended as it possibly can be. So we're gonna go in with our lips. I'm gonna take this deep brown for my lip liner, and I'm gonna kind of overdraw my lips just a little bit. I'm gonna sharpen this guy real quick. So I'm gonna take a look at my natural lip line, and I'm gonna go just a little bit below it. Start with my line. I'm gonna curve it out. And the easiest way I found is to kind of do the 2 center pieces and then the 2 corner pieces, and then connect everything together. So I'm gonna go down to my corners here. And then I'm going over my lip with the lip liner, kind of filling in just above the line. And then once I'm happy with the way my lip liner is, I'm gonna go in with this Cool Tone lip shade. Just since we went very colorful on the eyes, I'm gonna go a little more toned down on the lip. Alright, so we're going to finish off the look with just a little bit of setting spray to hold everything down and make sure that our look does not budge. So, it's going to give a couple spritz. And in the drag world, a couple means 100. Just going to let it dry for a little bit. Help the process along. Alright, I'm gonna put on a wig real quick and I'll be right back. Alright, and this is our finished look. I don't know about all of you, but I am loving it. I think it looks so fantastic, especially for Chico Pride. I hope you all enjoyed your time and learned a thing or two from me. It was such an honor to be here. Thank you again to Stonewall and to Catalyst for having me and allowing me to be here. My name is Anastacia Beaverhousen, and I'm wishing all of you at home a happy and safe Chico Pride.